Another experience was an outside organization always sent plebe Bibles, or beautiful leather-covered Bibles, to every new cadet with his or her name embossed in the cover. It's a beautiful tradition that goes back over 100 years. A separation of church-state organization, I think up in Wisconsin, wrote to me and said, this must be stopped. You really can't do this. You're forcing Bibles on all the cadets. So we compromised, and now the cadets can sign up for a Bible when they get there, and pretty much everybody's happy. But how is it possible to make spiritual discipline an integral part of every cadet's experience? And that's the struggle I was facing as a chaplain. You may have read this week that the Air Force Academy has provided a place now for Druid worship, for Earth worshippers, for those of the Wiccan groups. And it's defended as part of their right as a member of the service of the United States to have a place to worship. I think sometimes we push these boundaries too far, and this will be discussed, I'm sure, for a long time. The separation of church and state was something hanging over our head in the national parks. Our program brought college and seminary students into a national park where they would work in the hotels and restaurants and gift shops, and then on Sundays they would conduct Christian worship. And that's perfectly legal. It's to support the Park Service and their employees who can't go to church, or visitors who are at the park. But constantly, senators and congressmen are getting letters about this Christian group who are working in our national parks, where you're not supposed to have religious activity like this. Obviously, we're going to see more and more attention in this area, not only from the service academies, but from organizations that legally and legitimately work in our national places of parks and recreation. The answer for me in this spiritual struggle was a theological one. Perhaps in the end, the Federal Service Academies mandating spirituality comes down to a theological issue. Common grace versus special grace. Common grace is the attitude that all of us, all human beings, are made in the image of God. Every human being has the potential for goodness and to do incredibly good things. Special grace says that while human beings are made in the image of God, we all become self-centered by nature, some call it the fall, and we are capable of terrible things. In special grace, God reaches out, and through His Son, Jesus Christ, He changes our life, and He gives us the capacity for fellowship with Himself. Common grace, image of God, capable of good things. Special grace, God's intervention in humanity, giving us something very special to bring out the best in us with consistency. Faith in your fellow soldier, faith in your government, faith in your commander is necessary as a member of the armed forces. But faith in God cannot be required. The spirituality required in the academy mission must be common grace. The idea that the human spirit can be trained to think and perform duty, honor, country. But as a Christian, I'm not satisfied with that. We need much more than that. The United States provides chaplains for her armed services and places of worship for all military duty stations. West Point is endowed with beautiful chapels and encouraged to worship. Since 1802, when the Academy was founded, there have been chaplains. Thomas Warner was chaplain in 1826, and his legacy is not so much in what he said or did, but in his family. Thomas Warner's brother was a wealthy New York businessman who went through some real trials because he lost a lot of money in a big crash, and he lost his wife. So Warner and his two daughters bought a home out in West Point in a little island called Constitution Island, a historic piece of land right off of Trophy Point. One house. And his daughters spent most of their lives there. They were prolific authors, but they were also dynamic Christians. And they came to the academy, they taught Sunday school, they taught Bible studies, and then fortunate cadets could come over to their island home where they would also lead Bible studies. The legacy that they have left is in songs and books. Anna Warner wrote a little poem that goes like this. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Her older sister Anna wrote a Sunday school song that I still sing in my quiet office, and I quote many times in prayer. Jesus bids us shine with a clear, pure light, like a little candle burning in the night. In this world of darkness, we must shine. You in your small corner, and I in mine. They were angels of special grace at West Point. In addition to leading worship at the chapels, the chaplain was called on to perform what we call traditional duties. Marrying, burying, giving prayers at ceremonies. In fact, when I got to West Point, my predecessor said, Dick, always carry an invocation in this pocket, a benediction in this pocket, and remarks in your back pocket. Two experiences I had in formal duties. The Army-Navy game is held in Philadelphia most of the time, and an invocation is offered in the stadium by the Academy chaplain. My game day usually begins by having a service with the football team early Saturday morning. Now it's Saturday, Steve. And then changing into a suit, going to the stadium, giving a prayer before the game, and then running into the locker room, putting on my chain gang uniform, and I worked the sidelines as a linesman. If visibility is an asset, I was golden. One of the most memorable experiences was in 1981. 52 Americans were held hostage in Iran for 444 days. Upon their release, it was determined that West Point would be the place where they would be reunited with their families. The ambiance, the ability for security was what they wanted. The superintendent asked me to prepare a service of reunion on that Sunday afternoon for the returnees and their families and his guests and other VIPs. I selected Psalm 46 for the text. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And I think I got their attention in my opening statement when I said today, which happened to be Super Bowl Sunday, I said today, the most important touchdown in the world was not in the Super Bowl. It was at Stewart Airport when your plane landed back home in the United States.